Hey YouTube, this is Guy. I am coming back today with another watch review. If you follow the channel at all, you are probably well aware that I am a fan of military-style field watches. Some of my very first videos that I posted, some of my very first watch reviews, were on those types of watches. In fact, they were on the Hamilton Khaki Field and the Seiko SNK 809. So yeah, I'm a big fan of field watches. With that said, I wanted to look into some other field watch alternatives, particularly in the ultra affordable price bracket, which, if I'm not mistaken, this particular watch on the table, a Timex Expedition Scout 40mm, is probably your most affordable field watch option. It comes in at a price point of around $35. That's where I think I got mine at. Depending on strap options and other minor variations, they can come in at slightly more, but $35 was the price point that I found mine at, so I went ahead and pulled the trigger on this watch. I wanted to bring it in, take a look at it, give you guys my feedback on it, and also eventually I'll do a comparison with it and another pretty popular field watch, the Seiko SNZG 13 or 15. I believe mine's the SNZG 13, the one on the metal bracelet. But regardless, we're going to do some comparisons in a future video. But for now, I just want to do basically an overview of this Timex Expedition Scout, lay down the foundation for what is an ultra affordable field watch, look at its pros and cons, and just tell you guys what I think about this watch by itself in a vacuum, not next to any other alternatives in the genre. So to basically get started here, I'll give you a quick look. Of course, the watch. It came in this pretty cheap cardboard box. Inside there's a little stand that it sits on. I'm not going to bother pulling it out. More or less the same kind of packaging that I'm used to seeing on Casio's super affordable entry-level watches. Nothing special here, but this is the packaging that it came in for me. It also comes with a instruction manual, which is all but unnecessary for the vast majority of users. You're probably not going to need instructions to know how to set the date or the time on a typical analog watch. So we'll get that out of the way and jump into the actual watch itself. To get started, we'll talk about some of the specs on this watch. The case dimensions come in at 40mm in diameter with 20mm lugs. The case thickness comes in at about 11mm. Lug to lug, I got a measurement from the top of the lug to the bottom. Roughly 49mm, might have been 49 and change. I don't have a digital caliper, so I can't get super precise, but within 1mm. Now, the movement in this is advertised as an analog quartz movement, and frankly, there's not a whole lot of information about the movement itself. Not that it's particularly important, but yeah, that's all I really could probably touch on. There's a few more points of detail that I'll cover in a minute. Now, this watch is rated for water resistance of 50 meters, but being as how the crown is not a screw-down crown, in fact, in the outward position, it does nothing at all, really. Whether or not you should take this swimming, or certainly not diving, it's debatable. Let's just say that even though it's rated at 50-meter water resistance, I'm going to be a little cautious about getting this too wet. This watch does feature a date complication at the 3 o'clock position, and the crystal covering the dial is just a standard mineral crystal. Interesting fact, I guess, that I learned about this while I was doing some research about the watch. The case is, it's got a gray matte finish, which in the pictures I thought it was going to come in as more of a brushed stainless, but it looks like there's some sort of sprayed on finish or coating on that. So it's this gray matte finish, which took me by surprise when I pulled it out of the box, but it's not bad. That said, it's on the Timex website, it's listed as a quote-unquote metal case, and then further down in the specifications they say it's brass. So it's not even a stainless steel case. It's in fact, according to them, brass. This watch comes on a black leather strap, which it's not a bad strap, to be honest. The buckle has their little Expedition branding on it. It's got some contrast stitching, but the stitching isn't the full length of the strap. I haven't worn this a whole lot, and this is kind of the amount of wear that was on the strap right out of the box, which is a little excessive to me, but I guess something in this ultra budget price point, maybe you can't expect a whole lot. I mean, this is where it was strapped on the buckle to the little stand in the box. It doesn't appear to me to have ever been worn in like a return or anything. Like I don't feel like I got a returned watch. I think it's just relatively low quality leather, and it was strapped very tightly down to the stand that it comes on. Now this watch does have Timex's Indiglo feature, and a little later in the video I'll try to dim the lights a little bit and show it to you. I don't think it's going to show up in this lighting, but if you push the crown in, the whole dial lights up. It might be picking up slightly in this lighting, but like I said, I'll try to go ahead and give you a better look at that a little bit later with less lights. I'll dim my studio lights. Another peculiar thing about this watch, even though it does have the Indiglo feature, is that the hand set on the hour and minute hand, that white painted area, does feature a glow-in-the-dark lume. None of the other areas of the dial, none of the hour indices, none of the hash marks, nothing else is loomed. It's just the hands. So that's a little peculiar. But, and the lume's not particularly good, if I'm being perfectly honest. So that's, your basic overall specs on this guy. Let's talk a little bit more about the movement, and I'll give you what information I can. But like I said, the information on the movement was somewhat lacking. First things first, though, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to zoom the camera in a little bit closer, so when we start talking about the case and the dial and the quality and design, we'll be a little bit tighter on the camera. So give me one moment and we will get a tighter zoom on the camera. Alright, so like I said, first things first, I want to talk about the movement on this guy. And again, not a whole lot of information is available published about it, but it is what they call an analog quartz movement. I don't know if it's Japanese, Chinese, or it's probably some Asian country of origin, but not really sure which. What I do know is that it uses a CR 2016 battery. However, the battery life is just completely unknown. It's not published anywhere. Now, obviously, the battery life could vary significantly depending on how often you light up the dial with the Indiglo feature. If you are using that nightlight feature frequently, it's going to probably adversely affect the battery life significantly, so maybe that's why they don't publish in the user manual or their website any specific battery life information. The movement does hack when you pull the crown out to the second position, as most quartz movements do, but as you can see, you pull the crown all the way out, the second hand stops running and hacks the movement, so that's pretty nice. The hands, however, when the crown is pulled out and you're adjusting the time, they don't rotate very fast. So, if you want to set the time, you can see how much I'm rotating this guy. I mean, we're at 2 o'clock. The rotation of the handset is very, very, very slow and deliberate. Whereas on some watches, you give it a spin and an hour goes by. This, you give it a spin and 15 minutes goes by. So, that's a little different. It's my first time really looking at a Timex watch. Maybe that's standard for them. I don't know. But yeah, I was sort of surprised by that. Also, setting the crown to the second position in order to adjust the date, the first position, it very difficult to catch that notch. It's either all the way in or all the way out. And catching that first notch to adjust the date, I mean, even just doing it here on camera, you can see I'm trying to get it. It's very, very difficult. Annoyingly so. I'm not even going to... I might take me 10 or 15 tries to get that crown into the right position to set the date. So I'm not even going to bother doing it on camera. Suffice to say, though, it's a little bit of a pain. So... other than that, there's really not a whole lot to say about the movement of the watch, and I like talking about watches' movements, particularly when we're looking at mechanical or automatics, and giving you as much detailed information about it as I can. The moral of the story on this is that there's just not much detailed information available, so that's about all I can tell you, I'm sorry to say. Now, moving on from the movement discussion, I usually like to talk about the quality and design of watches. That's one of my main talking points. And this watch, I'm going to say the quality is decent, particularly when we're in that ultra affordable price bracket. You can't expect a whole heck of a lot, but yeah, it's not bad. I mean, first things first, the case again, it came with this some sort of sprayed on or applied finish, which didn't really present the way that it does in the pictures as it does in person. I wouldn't say that it's bad, but it's all just this matte gray finish, and it's not exactly what I was expecting when I ordered this watch. So keep in mind, unless there's other versions that have different finishings on their cases, it might not look exactly the same in person as it does in the pictures online if you're ordering one of these guys. The crystal is just a standard mineral crystal. There's nothing to really say about it. It probably will pick up scratches pretty readily if you're not careful with it. It's, I'm sure, outside of maybe being acrylic, some of the cheapest crystal material that manufacturers can use. That said, I don't have any problems with it yet. I haven't really worn it much. I put it on the wrist and wore it around for a little bit just to see if it was comfortable or not. But so I guess my point is I haven't subjected it to any real serious use. Now, this being a quote-unquote expedition watch, it's supposed to be like a rugged outdoorsy watch. You'd think maybe they would use a little bit of a better material for the crystal so that it would, resist the propensity to be scratched up or scuffed up. But it is what it is. The case back. When I was talking about the case, I thought I'd give you a quick look at the case back. It's just, it's not even a screw-on. It's a pressure fit, I guess is what you would call a case back. There's a little notch up in this region if you need to pry the case back off. But got the Expedition branding, water resist 50 meters, stainless steel back. It does list that the battery is the CR 2016, and I guess you have like the Timex website URL down there at the 6 o'clock position. Interesting that they decided to use a stainless steel case back, but the brass metal case, I was a little surprised again when I found out that the case was made of brass and wasn't some sort of stainless steel. Next, I guess we'll talk about the dial layout. The date complication at the 3 o'clock window, again, I had discussed, it's very difficult to set it just because getting the crown into the proper position to adjust the date is tricky, to say the least. That said, it's also very small, and I have, less than perfect eyesight, so reading the date can also be a little bit of a pain if you're the type of person that doesn't have really good eyesight. Now, for, somebody that can see well, I'm sure it's fine. But, that's just my perception of it. Handset, again, the 12 o'clock and 12 o'clock because the minute hand's almost at 12. The minute hand and the hour hands do feature this white painted area, which is in fact a glow-in-the-dark luminous paint. So I'm not sure why they didn't lume any of the other dial, or I guess more appropriately, I should say, I'm not sure why they lumed the hands at all, because it has the light up Indiglo feature. It's a little peculiar, but it is what it is. The lume is not particularly bright. It doesn't seem to be particularly long lasting either, which is another reason why I would wonder why they bothered at all. But the hands themselves, I do like them. They have a sort of a needle-like point towards the end of them. Otherwise, they're fairly standard. The second hand is obviously this pretty nicely colored orange arrow hand. I like that design aspect quite a bit. I think that's cool. Now, after the hands, I kind of want to talk about this dial. The dial is a very typical field watch dial. It has Arabic indices from 12 o'clock all the way around the dial, and then an inner ring of the military time 24-hour indices. On the outer chapter ring, you have a track of hash marks for each second or minute, and unfortunately, as you can see, the second hand does not align very well at all with that outer chapter ring. Something that I give a lot of credit to Casio on their analog dial watches, in my experience, is that the second hand does usually align quite well with the hash marks on the outer chapter ring, but this watch, that is not the case for this particular example of the Timex. Again, having not a lot of experience with Timex watches, can't comment to see if this is an aberration, to say if this is an aberration or if this is sort of standard operating procedure for those guys. But that notwithstanding, I do like the dial layout, and again, it's because it's a pretty typical field watch layout, and I'm just a fan of field watches in general. Black dial, white indices. Now I will say the quote-unquote white indices, they actually on camera here look like they're kind of presenting pretty white, but they are not stark white. And when I do a side-by-side of this watch and the Seiko SNZG, you're going to see that there's a pretty big difference in the quote-unquote whiteness of the indices. These are actually borderline gray, and I sort of dislike that, if I'm being honest. I wish that they were brighter, whiter. Just sort of messes with the legibility of this watch a little bit because they're not bright white indices. They're not bad. They're good sized. They're very legible in that regard. It's just the coloration doesn't work perfectly, in my opinion. That off-white or basically sort of a flat gray coloration on those indices is not ideal for me. The crown on this guy, it's pretty standard. Again, difficult to set the date position, but pushing it in to illuminate the Indiglo works very well. Pulling it all the way out to the second position to set the time, no problems there. When it is pulled out, it's actually pretty solid. A lot of cheaper watches have like a wiggle. You can see I'm giving this one a little nudge. It's not. It doesn't seem to be loose or wiggly, so that's a plus. But it's not a screw down crown, so it's potentially a spot where water can invade your case and potentially ruin your movement. So we got to be careful, despite the fact that it's listed as being 50 meters of water resist. Look like I have a little bit of dust or something on the dial. I can't tell if it's under the glass or on the glass, but right there around the 10 doesn't seem to want to come off. I'll take a closer look at that later. But that's sort of annoying now that I'm seeing it all zoomed in person, up close on the camera, rather. Now, the movement is pretty loud, and I don't know if it's picking up on the microphone that I'm wearing at all or not, but the ticks, they are very loud. Like, it might be disturbing almost if you're trying to sleep with this watch on or on your nightstand, or if you're out, on any quote-unquote expeditions, if it's in your tent with you. It's annoyingly loud. The loudest quartz watch that I've probably seen, and I bought my wife a Swatch analog quartz watch a while back, which ticks loud. I believe that this is a bit louder than that even, so if you don't like a loud ticking, then this might not be the watch for you. Now, I did touch on the strap briefly. They call this genuine leather, and genuine leather, my understanding is when something is called genuine leather, that's like one of the lowest level qualities of leather that's still, considered leather. This strap is not fantastic. Again, it came with a lot of wear. You can see there. I don't feel like this was a used watch that maybe somebody returned and they shipped to me, because it's very clean. It doesn't seem to have any sort of dirtiness to it. It's just that the strap there was worn in pretty hard just from being strapped down onto the little stand in the box. It is comfortable. Again, like I had mentioned, I'd have worn it on my wrist just around the house a little bit to get a feel for it. And I do like the fact that it's quite comfortable. So this strap probably could serve you pretty well, honestly, assuming that it's durable. And I believe it probably is. Leather usually is. You can see on the buckle, this buckle, I don't even know if it's metal. It feels very lightweight if it is metal. I would be surprised if it's not some sort of plastic that's painted. But it does have the Expedition logo on it. And again, if it's metal, it's some of the thinnest metal material that I've ever felt. That said, it probably works fine. Probably not going to break any other point than the little pin or spring bar that's holding it together, you know. That's really going to be your weak point on any buckle, so I don't feel like the buckle itself is going to crack or shatter or anything. It doesn't feel that flimsy. It just feels pretty lightweight. Now, the only really other thing to discuss about this watch is the Indiglo feature and the sort of running customer complaints. We'll talk about the customer complaints first, and I'll do the Indiglo at the end. Now, if you hop on Amazon or, you know, just do some Googling on the internet, there's a lot of complaints about this watch. In one particular point, the crown, a lot of people have posted that the crown breaks, falls off, comes out, and basically renders the watch inoperable. Relatively, soon into the lifespan of their piece. Now, first of all, one thing to keep in mind is the people that have problems are the ones that are going to have the highest propensity to go online and to post something about the problem. If you get something in the mail and it works fine, 9 times out of 10 people aren't even going to bother to go do a review. That said, the amount of reviews are overwhelmingly favorable on this watch that I saw, and so far my review is pretty favorable as well. But there, like I said, there are not an insignificant number of people that complain that their watches break on them. So time will tell whether or not this is going to be a high quality piece. I guess high quality is not the right word. Durable, long lasting. I guess at a price point of $35, if it were to break, replacing it's not that big of a deal. But we don't want to have to replace a watch after a month or 2 or 3, or the first time we take it out for its intended purpose. And again, this watch is marketed as sort of a outdoorsman's watch or a expedition sports watch. So if after the first time we take it out to go rafting or hiking or whatever it is that we might want to do, if it breaks, that's going to be a bummer. Again, I think that it's sort of the syndrome of the squeaky wheel gets the grease, like the people with the problems are the ones that are going to talk the loudest. So that's probably why I see what I perceive to be somewhat of a high proportion of complaints. But again, the vast majority of the reviews on this watch were overwhelmingly favorable. So like any manufacturing company, there's going to be, pieces that come out that they fail. That's just the way it goes with manufacturing. I have owned a lot of firearms over the last decade, and I would say 25% of them have had some sort of problems. That's par for the course. So I guess if 25% of the watches that a company like Timex makes had a problem, I wouldn't be overwhelmingly shocked either. But I bet that number is quite a bit lower. And as far as the firearms are concerned, I bet I'm just a little bit unlucky. I'm sure that 25% isn't the failure rate of a firearm as it's being manufactured. I probably, A, am just a little bit more critical, and B, a little bit unlucky and quote-unquote running bad. But anyway, yeah, the customer complaints, I thought I'd bring that up just because I noticed that there were a fair number of quote-unquote 1-star reviews on this watch. I don't think they're warranted, though. But time will tell on whether or not this watch is going to be rugged and durable and stand up, to the test of time. What I'll probably do is gift this to a friend and ask them to, wear it for a couple of months and give me back some feedback. I have plenty of people that don't really wear watches on the regular. I wouldn't want to wear this over my general day-to-day watches for a significant period of time. I just don't like it that much. But I will try to get somebody to wear this for me for maybe a month or 2 or 3 or however long, and we'll report back on the overall, durability and ruggedness of it. Now, the last thing to discuss, like I had said, is going to be the Indiglo, or glow-in-the-dark feature. I'm going to dim my lights and go ahead and light this guy up a little bit and see if I can give you a look at that Indiglo feature a little better. So we'll be right back. Alright, this is the darkest I can get my office here where I record my videos because it's 11 o'clock in the morning and I have a window directly behind me. So hopefully this will give you at least some indication as to what the Indiglo feature looks like on this, and I'll give you my impressions of it. So by pushing in the crown, you light up the dial, and it's not like it's like a backlight. The light is behind the dial, so it's a strange looking illumination. That said, it is legible in the dark. It works for its intended purposes, but I'm not crazy about it. I think it looks weird. Now, if the aesthetics of it don't bother you, then, you know, you're not going to have any issues with it at all. And I can overlook the aesthetics of it, but when you light up that dial, it looks strange and splotchy, and that backlight in contrast with these gray numerals, it's not an attractive light feature like maybe you would... I think like on the Casio watches, they have that EL, electroluminescence backlight feature. That's a nice looking backlight. The Indiglo on this is functional, but not particularly aesthetically or cosmetically pleasing. So, you know, that's my 2 cents on that. But yeah, that's basically, you know, what you're going to get. I don't know, again, how long the battery will last if you're using this Indiglo feature a lot. And I'll try to zoom in here even closer, see if that gives you a better look at it. But, yeah, so again, I don't know how rough it is on the battery to light this dial up. It is sort of this weird blue-green color. I don't know how well that's picking up on camera for you. Again, I'm not crazy with it aesthetically, but functionally it serves its purpose and it works. So yeah, guys, that's basically about everything that I can give you on the Timex Expedition Scout 40. I believe they have a 42 or 43 millimeter too, which is why they call this the Scout 40, so keep that in mind. So I'm going to sign off here. This video is going a little bit longer than I intended. I didn't think I was going to need close to 30 minutes to review this particular piece. It's, you know, just the way I roll, I guess, so sorry about that. Down in the notes section below the video, you will be able to find links to my social media, so Facebook, Twitter, my Patreon page. If you want to support the channel, hop over to Patreon and look into that a little bit. Also, I'll have links to this watch on Amazon if you're interested in it. It'll be through my affiliate account, so if you buy it, I end up getting a small commission, which also supports the channel. I will be back in the future again, like I said, with another field watch review, the Seiko SNZG. I believe it's model SNZG 13 or 15, I forget off the top of my head. And then we'll eventually do a comparison of these two because they are very similar in size and style, if not functionality-wise. So anyway, I appreciate you guys tuning in. I will catch you again here sometime soon with another video. Alright, bye.